And welcome back to Love Your Food. This week we have a really beautiful marinade. This is perfect for poultry. It's actually really excellent. You could use this on turkey. Now we couldn't get turkey legs for this one, so we're using chicken legs and thighs back on, bone in and skin on for this one, and we'll show you some of the ingredients for this. So we're going to start. We have some buttermilk, some coriander seed, and this is dried coriander. We're also going to use some annatto, also known as achiote. We're going to have a shallot in there. We're going to use the juice from 2 oranges, some ginger, and here's our chicken. So like I said, this is bone in, skin on, leg, thigh with back on. If you can get it without the back, that's even better. So we're going to start. We're just going to grind up our coriander seed here. We want this pretty fine. We have a spice grinder. It's basically an old coffee grinder that we have converted to just using for spices. Once you have started using it for spices, please do not go back to using it for coffee. Really not the best idea. So this is our spice grinder, and we're going to get that pretty fine. You don't want any chunks or anything in there. And we're going to move on to our ginger. So our ginger is a little old, so it is a little tougher to peel, but we're just going to do what we normally do. You see Chef Caleb here is getting rid of any of the sort of knobbly bits, and then you can just sort of scrape the skin off with the back edge of your knife, and then we're just going to give this a chop. So first thing is a nice thin slice. Don't worry if you're cutting into them. Again, we are going to chop this actually pretty fine because this is for a marinade, so we don't want big pieces. So you're just going to go lengthwise on that. And then another nice little finer chop on that. And we're just going to get that into nice small little pieces. You're just going to keep chopping it until it's a pretty fine dice. And that's about that. So we're going to start our marinade with that in the bowl. And then we're going to zest these 2 oranges. Actually, I said juice earlier. We're just using the zest. The juice is actually going to be used from these oranges in our recipe next week. But we are going to use the zest from both of those oranges in this recipe. So we have our microplane grater. We're just going to zest both of those oranges for that nice citrusy flavor and aroma. In goes our coriander. And then this is the achiote. Now we're just going to use about that much. This is a really is a sort of an orangey red, based on a seed. It's a sort of a spice. It's got a kind of a floral aroma. It's similar in some ways to saffron, actually. So this recipe has some similarities to the saffron yogurt chicken we did a little while ago. But this one's very fusiony. It sort of doesn't come from anywhere in particular. It's got a lot of ingredients from all over the place. Now, our achiotes, or annatto, was a little bit older, so we just want to make sure that we're getting any of those little dried chunks broken up. And then we're going to add our shallot. So you've seen us do this before. What we're going to do is, once we get the skin off, and you've cut all of the sort of the bitter, papery parts out, we're going to grate this. So get all of the skin off, and then get your grater, your box grater is just fine, and we're just going to use the fine side of that. And most of it's going to stick to the grater, to be totally honest. We've got a little bit of it in the bowl here, but most of it's going to come out at the very, very end. So once that's all grated, we're just going to mix this all together. We do want to make sure there are no big chunks. Again, this is for a marinade. We do want to keep everything kind of uniform in here. So try and break up any bits of annatto or chunks of anything that you see in here. The moisture from the orange zest and the moisture from the grated shallot will help with this. It's going to sort of help dissolve that annatto. Okay, that's great. So now we're going to add just a little bit of the buttermilk in here, just to help it dissolve a little bit. So we're going to start blending it together, just until we can see a little bit of the annatto dissolving into the buttermilk. Then once it's a pretty uniform paste, we're going to just add the rest of that buttermilk and give it a good stir. So try and get it all out of the container you had it in. And then you want to give it a good stir. And once it's well combined, you do want to make sure, again, you're just on the lookout for little bits of annatto to break those up. You will also have little chunks of shallot and little pieces of ginger in there as well. So it's okay if it's a little bit lumpy, but you do want to get it as smooth and uniform as possible. You see this really nice rusty red color to it as well. That's going to just infuse your chicken with a great flavor and color as well. So we're going to add our chicken here. And you want to make sure everything has a pretty good coating as well. Don't be afraid to get your hands in there, but make sure you wash your hands before you handle anything after you've handled raw chicken. So once everything's got some pretty good coverage, we're just going to let that marinate overnight. Next day, when it's ready to go, we are, you see we've made a ring out of our fire, so we've made a really, really hot fire on our barbecue grill, and we've pushed it out to the edges. We've made a ring out on the outside of our grill here. And then you want to position it, the legs with the bone in does take a little bit more heat. So we're going to put it so that the thighs are towards the middle and the legs are towards the outside where there's a little bit more heat. And we don't want it to go full tilt. We definitely want it to go about half tilt so that it's going to take a little bit of time. And this is what it looks like when it's done. So it's a little dark outside, so our light is not particularly great, but this is what it looks like when it's done. So this was a really high indirect heat on this chicken. This will work great on turkey as well, just in time for Thanksgiving. And this is what it looks like inside. So we're just going to cut open right at the joint, and it's just perfect. You get that really nice color on the outside, really nice and juicy on the inside, lots of flavor, that shallot, the achiote or annatto, the orange zest as well. Really, really amazing flavor. This was absolutely delicious. And next week we're going to show you the cranberry sauce that we made to go with it. Absolutely fantastic. We had this with the cranberry sauce and actually the baba ghanouj that we did last year. So if you like this recipe, please do like and subscribe. If you have any recipes you'd like to see Chef Caleb try on the channel, please let us know in the comments below. And remember to love your food.